Hello everybody and welcome to another video of mine. In today's video, I've got a very interesting comparison because I'm finally comparing my Xbox Series S against my PlayStation 5. Now, in case you're wondering why did it take me so long? Well, number one, I only got my PlayStation 5 in December, so it's been a little less than 2 months. And I took my time because I really wanted to understand how the console performs so that I can also understand all its pros and cons. I've had my Series S for a long time, so of course, I've had a lot of time to go over the console and play a lot of games on it. Now, in case you're wondering, it's not even a fair competition because they don't necessarily belong in the same category of consoles. You should really be comparing the PlayStation 5 to the Xbox Series X. Well, I don't have a Series X, unfortunately, but just hear me out for a few minutes. The Series S is an all-digital console. Now, PlayStation 5 comes in two versions. One is a disc version, the one that I have, because I don't have a digital only edition. But here's the thing, it also comes along with a digital only edition. And if you're out in the market and if you want to buy a console without the disc drive and you want to go all digital, then these are the two consoles that you can actually choose from: the Series S and the PlayStation 5, the digital version. And in terms of the pricing even, there's really only a difference of say about $100 if you're in the States. One retails for $300, that's the Series S, and the PlayStation 5 digital version retails for say about $400, $399 at that. And even here in India, the Series S retails at around 35,000 Indian rupees and the PlayStation 5 retails at about 40,000 Indian rupees. So in terms of pricing, they're not really far away from one another. I do understand that technically, on paper, the PlayStation 5 definitely has an edge over the Series S. But I still wanted to make a comparison because, hey, I've used them both extensively and I have a lot of things to share in this video. Therefore, it's going to be a long video and I would recommend that you get your tub of popcorn. I, of course, am going to segment it for you and I'm going to timestamp it so that it becomes convenient for you to just go over a particular segment if you wish to, or skip over and move over to another segment. But having said that, it is going to be a long video. So stay tuned for a long video experience. With that said, let's get started, folks. Alright, so let's get started with the specifications, although it's not exactly an even fight when it comes to the specifications. Now, I will put up a chart on screen as well, like a distinguish between chart. So in case you want to pause the video, you can take your time to take a look at this chart after pausing the video. Now, as far as the specifications go, it's obvious that the Xbox Series S is definitely comparatively inferior when it comes to the technical specifications on paper. Because if you look at the performance in terms of the GPU, now it comes along with 20 CU, that is compute units, at only 1.565 gigahertz, whereas your PlayStation 5 actually comes with around 36 compute units at 2.23 gigahertz GPU clock speed. So there is no doubt that the PlayStation 5 outclasses the Series S in terms of performance. And it's not just that, even the teraflops, if you take a look at the custom RDNA 2, PlayStation 5 is 10.28 teraflops and the Series S is only 4 teraflops. Now there's 10 GB DDR6 RAM on the Series S and there is 16 GB DDR6 RAM on the PlayStation 5. Now here's the thing, even in terms of storage, the Series S, it claims that it has 512 gigabytes worth of storage, but the actual usable storage on the console after the storage is consumed by the system itself, because the system needs storage to perform activities, run the operating system, etc. So you're only left with around 365 gigs of internal storage after all of that. Now, even with your PlayStation 5, similarly, you have 825 GB storage SSD, but not all of that 825 is actually usable. You're left with somewhere around 680. I'm going to put up those numbers on screen. I'm not so sure about it right now while I'm recording this, but I'm going to put up that number on screen so that you can take a look at that information, or I'm going to put it in the description box. So not all of what PlayStation or Xbox Series S claims can actually be utilized because the operating system also consumes some of that storage. Now, apart from that, you do have options of updating your storage on the Xbox Series S because they have a custom storage unit that you can plug behind the Xbox Series S, and you can upgrade your memory. Now, of course, you can plug in any hard disk drive or any external SSD as well, and you can game through it. But here's the thing, you can only run the previous gen games or previous gen titles and not current gen titles. That means you can't run Series X and Series S games off of an external hard disk drive or an SSD. Now, the same goes for PlayStation as well, whereas PlayStation in this hand gives you customization options as well, because you can actually use third-party NVMe SSDs and just insert it in your PlayStation 5. So you don't necessarily have to go along with a proprietary expandable storage option that you have on the Series S, because there's no other way. You have to buy the expandable storage that comes along with Xbox, and that's the only route if it's Xbox Series S. But with PlayStation 5, you have third-party options as well. In addition to that, just like the Xbox Series S, you can also attach an external SSD or an HDD and play PlayStation 4 games on it, not PlayStation 5 games, because those games need to run off the internal storage, or when you finally expand your internal storage by adding that third party or another NVMe SSD. And of course, PlayStation 5 has two versions, which is a digital edition and a disc edition, whereas the Series S is an all digital console, so digital only. So these are some of the differences when it comes to these two consoles on paper as far as the specifications go. But now let's take a look at some of the other factors. Okay, now that we've seen the specifications on both the devices, let's move on to the form factor as well. Now, the thing that you would immediately notice as soon as you take a look at both the devices stacked side by side is how compact the Xbox Series S really is. Now, the PlayStation 5 next to the Series S looks like a giant. It is mammoth in size, because take a look at that. I'm going to move the controllers as well, just so that you get an idea of the scale and the kind of huge size of the PlayStation 5. So no matter which angle you look at it from, you have the PlayStation 5 looking like Goliath near the Xbox Series S. So if the Xbox Series S is David, your PlayStation 5 is the Goliath in this case. Now that we've taken a look at the form factor of the consoles itself, I do want to talk about the ports available as well. But let's also talk about how compact this is. In fact, it's so compact that you can tuck away the Xbox Series S in any corner of the house, and because of its squarish cut corners everywhere, it's easier to place it anywhere that you want. However, with the PlayStation 5, well, it has these curves and it looks kind of abstract to me, definitely more futuristic, not as simple as the Xbox Series S, but that is what makes the PlayStation 5 very difficult to keep in any corner. So you need a lot of space. Bottom line is that you need a lot of space for the PlayStation 5 to be kept. So now that we have taken a look at the form factor, let's also talk about the ports. Now let's start with the Series S. All right. So with the Series S, you have a power button right here, and then you have a USB port right in front. You have the Wi-Fi or the button to sync your controllers, and nothing on the sides. Now when you finally move behind, I hope I'm capturing this on the camera properly. I'm just going to make sure that it is in focus. All right, so here we go. So on the back side, you have the power port where you can connect your power. You have a storage expansion, which is a custom storage expansion, and it's only for your Xbox Series X and S. Apart from that, you have an HDMI out. You have two USB ports here as well, in addition to the one in front, and finally a LAN port here as well. Now what is nice is, I don't know if you can see this design. So what this makes one do is identify, what kind of ports are actually there. So let's say, for instance, there are 3 dots, right? 3 dots means that you have USB ports linked to the 3 dots. 4 dots means storage expansion here. So even if your console is tucked away like this and you can't see the backside, just by touching, right at the back, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, and you will immediately be able to figure out that, hey, okay, now 4 dots mean it's the storage expansion. That's quite nice, by the way. All right, so in terms of ports, the Xbox Series S is not bad, but the PlayStation 5, of course, has more going for it. Now let me lift this bad boy up because this is quite heavy, by the way. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, when it comes to the form factor, the PlayStation 5 also has a sort of a stand. So you can place your PlayStation 5 on this stand and it gives kind of stability to the whole console. So this bad boy is very heavy, so I've just got to be careful with this particular device. Now this, of course, is the disc version. It's not the digital version, so it's got more heft to it. But right in front, you've got the power button right here. You've got an eject button as well, because this is the disc version, of course. You've got a USB Type-C port here, which is nice. So you can charge your controllers. You can even connect a pen drive in case you want to make your pen drive collect all the footage that you're recording. You've got a USB-C here. Sorry, USB 3.0, I believe. Type A, but not Type C. Sorry about that. Now let's go at the back. So at the back, you have your power port right here. You have your HDMI. You have your LAN, so both of them have LAN. And you have 2 USBs here. So Xbox has around 3 USB ports, 1 in front and 2 behind. But the PlayStation, on the other hand, has 4, because it has 2 in front, 1 being a Type A and 1 being a Type C, which is right here. And then you have 2 behind it, right? So in terms of ports, the PlayStation definitely topples. But in terms of the form factor, I definitely like the form factor of your Xbox Series S. Just look at how cute it is and just how movable it is. I mean, even if you want to tuck it away in a child's bag, for instance, it can actually go into a child's bag, any luggage for that. And if you're traveling with your console, suppose you're one of those gypsies and you like traveling around the world, this is a more difficult console to carry around, but this is really easy to carry around. Just put it in your laptop bag or even in a kid's bag, like I was saying, and you can carry this around anywhere, and it's comparatively lighter as well, although not as light as it may look. But it's definitely lighter than the PlayStation 5. So in terms of the form factor, I personally like the Xbox Series S, but hey, this is subjective, of course. Some people may like the curves that come along with the PlayStation 5 and the more abstract design, but I'm kind of an old school at heart, so I like the Xbox Series S in terms of the form factor. Okay, now that we've seen the devices, let's also talk about the controllers of both your PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series S. Now both the controllers are, I have the white versions of both the controllers. Of course, it comes in many colors. Xbox obviously had more variety in the beginning, but PlayStation 5 also recently launched a range of different colors that you can actually choose from. So in terms of the form factor of these controllers, let's start with the Xbox Series S. Now the Xbox Series S, it's a very familiar feel. And if you have used Xbox One and Xbox One controllers, then you'll feel right at home because there's nothing that's changed. It's pretty much the same in terms of the controller. So you've still got your, all right, let's take a look at it from here. So you've still got your buttons nicely tucked away. You've got your left and the right joystick. You've got LB, RT, and let me tell you that in terms of holding the controller, Xbox has always been very comfortable. And also the rumble mechanism or the rumble motors in the Xbox controllers were definitely comparatively better when it came to the controllers versus the PlayStation 4 DualShock controllers. But things have changed. Things have definitely changed. Now, I was a big fan of the Xbox controller, but after using the PlayStation 5 controller, I can confidently say that This round goes to the PlayStation 5 controller for sure. And there are numerous reasons as to why I'm saying that. Now, when you play a game like Astro's Playroom, for instance, the advancements that the PlayStation controller has had really comes forward. Now, first of all, I don't know if the camera is really picking this up, but the sound is pretty nice. I mean, there are small speakers in your controller itself. I'm not sure if the light will be able to pick this up, but it looks quite nice. The lighting, the LED lighting behind it, it looks gorgeous. And it's not just the look of the controller, it feels much better in comparison to the PlayStation 4 DualShock. So I have the PlayStation 4 controller right here as well. Let me show you the red one because I think, it'll look better in the light. So here, you can see the red one. It is way different than your PlayStation 4 controller for sure. And what's really good is Astro's Playroom is, you could say, a showcase of how good the controllers actually work. Because depending on what kind of surface you are running on, as an example, if you're running on water, you can feel the splash of the water. If you're running on sand, for instance, it makes you feel like you're running on sand. Now, this is a glassy surface, right? So when I'm running on this, the feel on the controller is completely different. So Astro's Playroom, a great technical showcase to show how advanced the PlayStation 5 controller really is. And in terms of the controller, I really have to give it to the PlayStation 5 because not only is it more advanced, but hey, it looks great. The LED lighting looks really pretty. It's better to hold than the PlayStation 4 controllers. So they have definitely done a much better job in terms of the controller department. And you feel like this is new technology. It's next gen technology. It makes you feel like that. And that's what getting a next gen console is all about, right? It should make you feel like you own something like bleeding edge technology or on those lines. And this controller makes you feel like that. So kudos to PlayStation 5 because this round definitely goes to PlayStation 5. Alright, so let's talk about the user interface of these two consoles as well. Now, in terms of the Series S, you are in familiar territory because nothing has changed. It's the same old that you get with the Xbox Series S. Now, it's the same tiled concept as far as the user interface goes, and everything feels similar to the previous gen, meaning the Xbox One. The only difference that you actually get with the Xbox Series S is custom dynamic backgrounds, like the one that you see behind me with the Halo dynamic background. That's the only difference. Well, apart from that, the entire interface is exactly the same as Xbox One. Now, that could mean a good thing or a bad thing. A good thing because there's no learning curve. You are familiar with the whole user interface. A bad thing because despite of purchasing a new console, a current gen console, it still doesn't feel like current gen because it's the same user interface. That brings us to the PlayStation 5. Now, the PlayStation 5 in terms of the user interface is completely different to your PlayStation 4. Here, you feel like you have actually purchased a new device because the user interface is completely different. So there's this new kind of a feel that you get with the PlayStation 5, and people will appreciate that because when you are out in the market, when you buy something new, you want to feel it, right? You want to, for instance, when you're loved, you want to be cuddled, you want people to hug you, tell good things to you, and new good things to you. And just like that, in your PlayStation 5, the user interface is comparatively newer. And in my personal opinion, because hey, choice, personal taste preference, this is subjective, right? My personal preference is the PlayStation 5 in terms of the user interface, simply because of the fact that it gives me that new car feeling, which the Series S fails to do. Now, there's nothing wrong with the Series S, don't get me wrong, because the Series S, just like Xbox One, is very efficient, very effective, to the point, and everything is fast and snappy, but it just doesn't give you that new car feeling, if you get what I mean. The PlayStation 5 definitely gives you that. Also, there are a few options that you get on the home screen if you press the PlayStation button on your controller. There are new options. Well, if you finally go over to the settings, there is familiar territory there because hey, the interface, once you enter the settings screen, is very similar to the PlayStation 4 settings screen or PlayStation 4 interface. But the home screen, the store, your game tile, game information, everything is different. Gone are the themes that used to come on the PlayStation 4, although I miss them. But I kind of prefer the simple and very elegant interface that PlayStation 5 has. So with that said, I definitely believe that the PlayStation 5 gives you that new console feel and therefore would have my vote. And this round, if I really have to compare the user interface, then this definitely goes to PlayStation 5, without a doubt. Now that we've spoken about the user interface, let's also talk about the different stores that we have on Xbox and on PlayStation. Now, the Xbox already received an update, so even the Xbox One has, again, a very similar storefront. So it's got those tiles and you can go through all the different sorting options that you have, like checking out new games, trending games, Game Pass, which I'm going to talk about in a short bit. The PlayStation 5, the store is completely revamped, just like the user interface is. So it feels fresh, it feels exciting, the game tiles all look really good and the colors pop. So again, it gives you that feel of a brand new console, bleeding edge technology, cutting edge technology, whatever you want to call it. Now, in terms of the store, apart from the sorting options, there are always deals that you will find on both Xbox and on the PlayStation. Now, on the PlayStation, we had a January sale. Currently, we are having a hot deals offer going on. On the Series S, currently there's a back compatibility sale going on. And by the way, I will highly recommend one title from the back compat sale. Even if you don't get anything, get Asura's Wrath. It's one heck of a game, and I had such a ball of a time when I played it way back in the 360 era. It's an old game, but it's aged like fine wine, and it's one game that I would highly recommend. And that brings me to the backward compatibility option as well, which I'm going to talk about in detail. But as far as stores, discounts, offers go, I would say both are evenly matched. There's always some sale around the corner that you can take advantage of and get your favorite titles at really great prices. Now, speaking of prices, here is where you get your money's worth with the Xbox Series S. Now, the Series S, in addition to all the deals, offers, etc., also allows you to enjoy Game Pass. And with Game Pass Ultimate even includes EA Play. And with that, you get access to close to 450 game titles, all included in that subscription fees, meaning you don't have to pay additionally for those games. On the PlayStation side of things, yes, we do have a subscription, which is the PS Plus, but embarrassingly speaking, it only has 20 games included in that PS Plus, most of which are PlayStation exclusives. There are third-party titles as well, but mostly PlayStation exclusives, and only 20. So you're talking about 20 versus 450. And of course, if you've been following the news, you know that Xbox has even acquired Activision Blizzard, and with that, we can only expect the game library on your Game Pass to go up. I wouldn't be surprised if we reach the magic number of 500 in, say, about 3 to 6 months' time. So it really becomes a thing of convenience, right? All you got to do is go to the store, pick up an Xbox, take the Game Pass subscription, and you don't even have to pay any extra money if you want to play the titles from the Game Pass library. The PlayStation, on the other hand, because you only have access to 20 games, you have to invest in games. Of course, there are deals and offers because we were talking about that, but hey, let's take an example. For instance, on the Series S, games like Back 4 Blood, Outriders, Medium, they were all available from day one. So if you take a handful of titles like that, let's say 10, just for the sake of calculation, and again, hypothetically speaking, let's assume that each title was $50. 10 games like that would cost you $500, which goes away because of Game Pass. On the other hand, on the PlayStation, you still have to spend that $500 because it's not just about purchasing your console. it's also about playing games on those consoles. And to play those games, your favorite games, on your console, you've got to shell out top dollars. So what costs $500 on the PlayStation would cost nothing but the Game Pass Ultimate subscription on the Series S. So from the value for money perspective, the Xbox Series S takes the cake. And to top it all off, here's the icing on the cake. In terms of games, you have the ability to access games which come from the original Xbox era. That's right. You can go as far back as the original Xbox and play some of your favorite titles and have that nostalgic feel, and it gives you access to all those great games. It doesn't end there. It just keeps getting better with the Xbox Series S for some reason when it comes to this. These games that you get access to, the old games, not only can you access them, but you get a performance boost on some of these titles. I'm going to put up a description link which gives you a list of all the games which have been optimized for the Series S and the Series X. And that performance boost comes in the name of FPS boost. A lot of titles, especially old titles, I was talking about the back compat sale, right? If you take a title like Binary Domain, originally on the 360, 30 FPS. Now with FPS boost on Series X and S, 60 FPS. And there are a lot of titles just like that, which has received the FPS boost. So you get that silky smooth 60 FPS experience on your Series S. Now, of course, you can access your PlayStation 4 games on your PlayStation 5 as well. And if they've been optimized or enhanced for the PlayStation 4 Pro, then of course you get that enhancement on the PlayStation 5 as well. In fact, some of the exclusive Sony titles, the ones which come from Sony Interactive Entertainment, for instance, God of War, Infamous Second Son. Now, titles like this or these, they also get a 60 FPS boost, a 4K boost on your PlayStation 5, but that's limited to only Sony exclusive titles, not third-party titles. On your Series S, you have not just your first-party exclusives, but also third-party exclusives that you can access. You can go way back to the original Xbox era, 360 era, Xbox One games, and plus they have received a performance boost. So there's no competition here. In terms of games, in terms of value for money, the Xbox Series S clearly emerges the winner because it just gives you more bang for your buck. It stretches every single penny of yours and it stretches as much as it can. So that's the beauty of the Xbox Series S, giving you your money's worth. So all you gotta do is just take that Game Pass Ultimate subscription, and the Game Pass Ultimate, by the way, also includes EA Play. On the other hand, the PS Plus does not include EA Play. You've got to pay for EA Play separately. There's another cost for you. So it just makes your gaming experience on the PlayStation comparatively more expensive, whereas on the Xbox Series S, not only is it inexpensive, but it is also more accessible because the backwards compatibility and the FPS boost takes your gaming experience to a whole new level. And therefore, the Xbox Series S, when it comes to accessibility, when it comes to backwards compatibility, when it comes to the performance boost, is my go-to console. And there are a lot of titles that I still want to play, like Asura's Wrath that I was talking about. I want to play it on my Series S, but on my PlayStation 5, I just cannot play it. In fact, heck, I can't even play it on my PlayStation 4 because it was a PlayStation 3 title or an Xbox 360 title. So this is where the Xbox Series S and X really aces the game and they come out on top. So you definitely get your money's worth. Of course, you won't get that graphical performance that you would on your PlayStation 5, but hey, there's a whole lot to enjoy. If you've got a 1080p monitor with 120 Hz or 144 Hz or even a 1440p monitor, that's a lot that you can actually enjoy on the Series S. Now, I am no fanboy, so I'm just going to make that point very clear. I have no bias towards Xbox Series S or to PlayStation 5. I'm just sharing my experiences. Now, I enjoy gaming both on my Series S and on my PlayStation 5, in fact, even on my PlayStation 4 Pro. So I enjoy both the platforms and I have no personal bias towards anything. I'm just sharing my personal experience and what I feel in terms of your price to value ratio. So Series S tops it. PlayStation 5, man, we need a Game Pass or a similar subscription there. And then, we could definitely tell that, hey, you're getting your money's worth on your PlayStation 5 as well. But until then, it's Xbox Series S, which takes this round. All right, let's also talk about the exclusivity of games. Now, the last generation, in my personal opinion, in terms of quantity and quality, PlayStation 4 had nailed the exclusive games section. And Xbox, in my personal opinion, did not have a chance when it went against the PlayStation 4. But boy oh boy, how the tides have turned. Now when it comes to the current gen, Xbox, in terms of quantity at least, takes the lead as far as exclusive games go. Now I'm going to put up a chart on screen so you can take a look at it. And by the way, in case you're wondering, why have I not included Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut in the PlayStation 5 list? Well, it's because it's also available on the PlayStation 4, so it's not exactly a PlayStation 5 exclusive. Death Stranding Director's Cut, on the other hand, is a PlayStation 5 exclusive. Now, in terms of the list that you see, some of the games may not have been released. For instance, God of War Ragnarok, we're still waiting for it to be released. So some of the games on this list might be a game which is coming soon. But in terms of the quantity, Xbox Series S and Xbox Series X definitely has the lead when it comes to the exclusivity. But here's the thing about exclusivity. Don't go by the numbers, quantity, and in fact, you should definitely take a look at quality. I don't deny that fact. But here's the thing when it comes to exclusivity, and this is my personal opinion, that when you choose a console, you should choose a console according to the type of games that you play. Let me give you my example. For instance, I really enjoy single-player story campaigns. I do not play multiplayer games, or I do not game online. I know it's shocking because I put out gaming content and I don't do online gaming because I kind of enjoy my single-player story campaigns. And me as a gamer, I prefer playing third-person action-adventure games or shooting games. And for the type of games that I personally like, Sony seems to be making more of them. For instance, God of War, Infamous Second Son, Horizon Zero Dawn, and I'm looking forward to the Forbidden West as well. And apart from that, the Uncharted series. So my favorite exclusives are actually on the PlayStation consoles because that's the type of games that I play. Now, Xbox, on the other hand, it has a lot of great games as well. Gears, Halo, Forza. But I am personally not into racing games. I'm not personally into first-person shooters. So although Xbox has the quantity and even the quality, by the way, these games are great. Halo Infinite, even though I don't like first-person games, I was pleasantly surprised because it offered a great gaming experience. So it truly depends on what type of games do you like, because that's what is important, and that is a key factor in you picking any one of these consoles. Now, if you can pick both, well, hey, great. But if you can only pick one, decide on the basis of what type of games do you play. Do you like first-person games? Do you like third-person games? Do you like action-adventure? Do you like horror? Do you like superhero games? Do you like RPGs? So that will ultimately help you decide which platform do you need to go in for. Personally, I enjoy the exclusives on my PlayStation 5, but you can't deny or take away the fact that there are so many games available on the Series S via the Game Pass Ultimate. So it's this section it's very difficult because I've had like conflicting thoughts, because on one hand I've got my favorite type of games and favorite titles. On the other hand, your money's worth and quantity as well. So it's a tough choice, isn't it? But again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but it all boils down to what type of games do you prefer? if I only had the option of buying one console, I would personally tilt towards PlayStation 5. So if you're wondering, why did you buy the Series S before the PlayStation 5? It was very difficult to get the PlayStation 5. I bought whichever console I could get my hands on first. So I got the Series S first because it was available. As soon as I could lay my hands on the PlayStation 5, I got myself that. But if I had to choose between the two, in terms of exclusive games, I would have personally gone along with the PlayStation 5. This again is subjective because this is on the basis of the games that you like. So choose wisely. I can't give this round to either or because it's subjective. So this is a tough one, but hey, this is the section where you decide which one would you rather choose. And do let me know in the comments section as to which one would be your pick in terms of exclusive games. Yeah? So let's move on to the next section now. Now let's talk about the resolution, performance, load times, graphics, etc. on both these consoles. Now, on paper, the PlayStation 5 is technically the superior console because not only can it do 4K gaming, but it can also give you access to 120 FPS. Now, Series S on the other hand can only do 120 FPS on selective games, but it's a console which does not focus on resolution, but it focuses on performance, meaning your frame rates. Now, although on paper it's technically inferior, but you'd be surprised when it comes to the performance on the Series S. Now, most of the games play at a bare minimum of say about 1080p. Some games can even do 1440p. Heck, some games can even do 4K. Games like Mass Effect Legendary Edition, Crysis Remastered, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, they all run at 4K on the Series S. And a lot of games also run at 1440p. And if you've got a 4K television, you can even upscale that image to get a sharper image, so your experience becomes better. Now the PlayStation 5, you don't have to make all these compromises or do any kind of a workaround. It can give you a native 4K in games which allow native 4K, otherwise it's checkerboarded. But it gives you 60 or 120 FPS depending again on the game titles. But the bottom line is that you get all the three things that you would want in a console: resolution, load times, frame rates. The Series S on the other hand has load time sorted out, and it's also sorted out your frame rates. But in terms of resolution, it falls behind in this race because technically it can only do 1080p or 1440p at most, with the exception of a few games like the ones that I've mentioned, Mass Effect, Crysis, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. It all boils down to ultimately the developers, because if the developers choose to give Xbox Series S that option, it can be a possibility, because technology-wise, the architecture, the velocity architecture can actually technically support it. But developers play it safe and they, in most cases, pick the 1S version of a backwards compatible game or games, and then they optimize that version. If they would have picked the 1X version like they do with Xbox Series X, then of course we could even benefit from a higher resolution. And that's what you get on the PlayStation 5. So you've got to choose between these two consoles. Now, as far as load times go, on paper, the PlayStation 5, because of its proprietary storage system, it has the edge. But on the basis of the games that we game today, there's not much of a difference, give or take maybe 10 or 15% on these consoles, and it depends on the titles as well. In some games, you'd be surprised that the Series S does a better job when it comes to the load times, and the PlayStation 5 lags behind. But on paper, the PlayStation 5 is comparatively superior when it comes to the load times, and I'm sure with time, in the next few years, we will see that optimization kick in, and perhaps the proprietary storage will kick in, and game developers will be able to take advantage of that. Now, with the velocity architecture, a lot of games, the current gen titles, are going to take advantage of that architecture, and even on the Series S, load times are minimal. Both the consoles perform exceptionally well when it comes to the load times, with just a very minimal or negligible difference as far as most of the game titles go. Now, there can be exceptions, but most of them, there's a negligible, you could say, experience. when it comes to the load times. In terms of graphics, PS5 comes out on top because the resolution is far better. But the Series S, if you've play it on a 1080p or a 1440p monitor, you're not gonna notice much of a difference, or even in a 4K television, because it upscales it to 4K. But it definitely lags behind in terms of resolution. In terms of frame rates though, it's 60 FPS on a lot of game titles. So you would not be disappointed there in terms of the frame rates, but in terms of resolution, you would definitely be disappointed. So depending upon what you prefer, again, it boils down to that. Do you prefer resolution, or do you prefer resolution and frame rates? Because with the Series S, you will get the frame rates, but you'll have to sacrifice or compromise on the resolution. But with the PlayStation 5, you get both. And if there is a difference of only $100, and if there's a difference of only 5,000 Indian rupees, and you get additional storage space as well, because you get almost 300 GB more than your Series S. Yeah? So the question is, which one would you go for? In this case, I would tilt towards PlayStation 5 because I personally prefer resolution over frame rates. Most of the games, like I told you in the last section, I like story-driven campaigns. So games with a lot of narrative elements. And for games like that, there are a lot of cutscenes. And most of those cutscenes generally are in 30 FPS. So to me, personally, it wouldn't make a difference. But for somebody who games competitively, or who is into first-person shooters, frame rates would matter, and it would matter more than the resolution, is what I'm trying to say. So if you're trying to have a competitive edge, both consoles perform well, but if you don't want to spend a little more, still have that competitive edge, then you can go with the Xbox Series S because it won't disappoint you when it comes to the performance. It shines in terms of performance, but in terms of resolution, it definitely lags behind. Therefore, this round goes to the PlayStation 5, and it will be my top pick because my personal preference is resolution. And hey, the icing on the cake is that I'm also getting the performance in addition to the resolution. Can't get any better, right? So let's finally bring it all together and let's try to conclude. And I'll give my personal opinion based on whatever I have experienced myself over the last few months gaming on both Series S and on PlayStation 5. Now, before I finally give my verdict on which one I would pick, in fact, I've already given that. If you haven't followed this video properly, I've already given that away. But hey, let me again bring it all together. And in case you're wondering, why haven't you spoken about quick resume? Well, I personally prefer playing one game at a time, and I'm not the kind of person who actually skips from one game to the other, because to me, the controls also become very confusing. But I can understand if you've got friends around, if you're playing NBA and if you want to skip over to FIFA, or if you want to skip over to Mortal Kombat, then I can understand that the quick resume feature will definitely come handy. And again, PlayStation 5 cannot compete with Xbox in this case because the Xbox has quick resume, and in a scenario like the one that I mentioned, quick resume will come handy. But let's bring it all together. Let's bring it all together. And I hope I haven't missed out any points. In case I have, you can definitely mention that in the comment section as well. Now, in my personal opinion, if I really had to choose between both the consoles, my pick in this case, although I have to spend more, would be the PlayStation 5, because the PlayStation 5 to me personally feels like a new gen console. The interface is fresh, exciting, new. Apart from that, it gives me all that I need in a gaming console. It gives me the graphical resolution that I seek. It gives me the frame rates that, even though it's not there, even if it's not there, it wouldn't matter much to me, but hey, it's there. Load times will only get better with time because of the proprietary storage technology that it has. Plus, I can put in a third-party NVMe SSD on my PlayStation 5 to expand the storage. So, therefore, due to all these reasons, and the most important reason to me is the type of games that I play. So the type of games that I personally play, that I personally enjoy, those exclusives happen to be on PlayStation. Therefore, I will tilt towards the PlayStation 5 if I have to choose one between the two. An ideal scenario would be to get both. But hey, these were my reasons as to why I would go along with the PlayStation 5. Having said that, the Series S offers great value for money because backwards compatibility is fantastic. You can go as far back as the original Xbox One. FPS boost, the performance boost that you get on your Series S is phenomenal. It just changes the way a game looks. Trust me when I say that. And lastly, and most importantly, Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play. It can't get any better in terms of stretching your dollar and giving you your money's worth. So you don't have to spend that extra money on a lot of titles, and with the Activision and Blizzard acquisition that Xbox has done, you can only expect newer games to come on Xbox. And in fact, first day launch like Halo Infinite, Forza, I think it was just the beginning. And there are a lot of launch day titles that will appear on your Xbox console. So from that perspective, from value for money perspective, Xbox Series S definitely emerges the clear winner. But again, this was a very tough video to make because I had conflicting thoughts here, but it all finally boils down to the type of games that you play. For me, PlayStation 5 was my choice of console because of that. Because of the titles, exclusives. Forza was on Xbox, it was a great title, but I personally prefer titles like God of War, Horizon, Forbidden West. These are the titles, or even Forspoken, I'm looking forward to that one as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section as well. So there are more titles that I'm looking forward to on the PlayStation. So that's what I can say. If you can get both, hey, get both. But if you have to get one, make that decision on the basis of the type of games that you play. Yeah? With that said, if you think I have missed out on anything, if you believe that there is a particular section that I should have spoken on, then do let me know in the comments section and hit me up in the comments. And I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. If you have any questions, if you have any queries about these consoles, then let me know in the comment section and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Now, if you liked the video, then hey, I would greatly appreciate it if you could hit that like and subscribe button. It helps with the YouTube algorithm, helps my channel grow. And if you have really enjoyed this video, then do share it with your friends and family members who are into gaming, because that will also help my channel grow. And if you want to get notified with all my latest releases, then just hit the bell icon and you'll get all the notifications whenever I release any video of mine. Now with that said, it's a wrap for this one. I'll see you lovely folks in my next video. And until that time, I'd say take care, stay safe, happy gaming, and may God bless you all.